Orbital Station Nexus 7, a massive trading hub where dozens of alien species gather for commerce and diplomacy. Main character, Jake Miller, a 28-year-old human mechanic working in the station's engine bay. He fixes ships for various alien species, but is constantly mocked for being human a species most aliens consider primitive and weak. Opening scene. Jake works alone in the grimy engine bay, repairing a damaged Altarian transport, while alien crew members make jokes about the monkey. With tools. The Altarians, tall blue-skinned beings with superior technology, laugh as they watch him work with basic human tools instead of their advanced repair systems. Character development. Jake shows incredible skill and intuition with machinery, understanding systems that even confuse their original builders. He can hear problems in engines that sophisticated scanners miss. Other mechanics, Altarians, Vexans, and Chorids, dismiss his methods as primitive luck. The setup. Captain Rex of the exploration. Vessel Starbreaker arrives at the station. His ship has been making strange noises that no alien mechanic can diagnose. The Altarian chief mechanic, Vel, insists their quantum analyzers show nothing wrong. Rex reluctantly allows Jake to examine the ship after other mechanics fail. Jake's discovery. Within minutes, Jake identifies a microfracture in the ship's dimensional drive core, something that would cause catastrophic failure during dimensional jumps. The alien mechanics had missed it completely because they relied only on their instruments instead of actually listening to the ship. The mockery. Instead of gratitude, the aliens become more hostile. Vel claims Jake probably caused the damage, himself to look important. Other species join in the mockery, calling humans lucky guessers and tool bangers. The challenge. News arrives that a diplomatic ship carrying peace treaty delegates has gone missing in the Void Sector, a region of space where dimensional barriers are weak and navigation is nearly impossible. The sector is known for destroying ships and driving crews insane. 3 rescue attempts by alien vessels have already failed. The desperate situation. Station Commander Krell, a proud Chorid, faces a crisis. The missing diplomats represent 6 major species, and their loss could spark an interstellar war. Every advanced alien vessel with sophisticated navigation systems has failed to return from the Void Sector. Offer. Jake volunteers to pilot a rescue mission, claiming he can navigate the Void Sector using manual piloting techniques. The suggestion triggers an uproar of laughter from every alien present. Rex openly mocks the idea. A human wants to succeed where our best pilots failed? The dismissal. Commander Krell initially refuses, but Jake explains that the alien ships failed because they relied on instruments that the Void Sector scrambles. He proposes using basic visual navigation and instinctual flying skills that humans developed during their atmospheric flight era. Reluctant agreement. With no other options and time running out, Krell finally agrees, but only gives Jake an old cargo ship with minimal technology, essentially a flying toolbox. The aliens expect him to fail quickly and return in shame. If he returns at all. Final scene. As Jake prepares the simple cargo vessel Iron Horse, alien spectators gather to watch what they believe will be a human's final foolish act. Vel makes a public bet that Jake won't survive 12 hours in the Void Sector. Jake ignores the mockery and focuses on his pre-flight checklist, trusting in human intuition over alien technology. Themes introduced. Human ingenuity versus technological dependence, underestimation of primitive skills, the value of intuition, and experience over pure technology. Cliffhanger. Jake pilots the Iron Horse toward the Void Sector as aliens place bets on his failure. The sector appears as a dark, swirling mass of space where stars seem to bend and reality itself looks unstable. Asterisk. The entry. Jake enters the Void Sector and immediately understands why alien ships failed. Their sophisticated navigation systems go haywire, displaying impossible readings and conflicting data. Instruments show the ship moving in 6 directions, simultaneously while detecting stars that don't exist. Advantage: Jake shuts down all electronic navigation systems and relies on basic visual piloting. He uses techniques learned from old Earth atmospheric pilots, reading spatial relationships, using distant star positions for reference, and trusting his inner ear for balance and direction. The phenomenon, the void sector, reveals its true nature. Region where space-time is unstable, creating optical illusions and dimensional echoes. Alien ships got lost because their computers tried to process impossible data, creating navigation loops and phantom destinations. Jake's method: using paper, charts, and a simple compass, Jake navigates like ancient Earth explorers. He marks reference points on his windscreen with a grease pencil and uses basic trigonometry to plot courses. The aliens watching via long-range communication can't believe someone is navigating interstellar space with caveman methods. First, challenge. Jake encounters a maze of spatial distortions where the same asteroid field appears to repeat infinitely. Alien rescue ships had gotten trapped here, flying in circles until their fuel ran out. Jake solves this by ignoring his instruments completely and following the subtle gravitational pull he feels through the ship's hull. The discovery: Jake finds the wreckage of 2 alien rescue ships, their crews still alive but completely disoriented. Their advanced neural interfaces, designed to merge pilot consciousness with ship systems, had made them vulnerable to the void's mental effects. Jake's purely mechanical piloting style protected his mind from the sector's influence. Communication breakdown. Contact with Nexus 7 becomes intermittent due to the dimensional interference. The aliens monitoring the mission assume Jake has been lost like the others. Vel publicly declares the rescue attempt over and prepares a memorial service for the foolish human. Deeper into the void. Jake continues deeper into the sector, following faint energy signatures from the missing diplomatic ship. He encounters increasingly bizarre phenomena areas where time moves differently, regions where the ship's shadow points in multiple directions, and zones where his reflection appears before he looks in the mirror. The pilot's instinct. Jake's years of mechanical work prove invaluable. He reads the ship's vibrations through his hands on the controls, feeling stress patterns in the hull that indicate safe directions. When instruments show safe passage through a seemingly empty area, Jake's gut tells him otherwise, and he's right to avoid what appears to be a dimensional shear that would have destroyed the ship. Mental resilience. The void sector attempts to affect Jake's mind with visions and false memories, but his practical, grounded personality resists the effects. While alien pilots with enhanced neural systems became overwhelmed by the sensory input, Jake's primitive human brain filters out the impossible and focuses on what's real. The trail. Jake discovers debris patterns from the diplomatic ship, using basic detective skills to track the vessel's path through the chaos. He follows a trail of discarded emergency beacons, each one leading deeper into the sector's heart, where the dimensional distortions are strongest. A close call. Jake's ship nearly gets caught in a reality storm, a region where different versions of space-time overlap. His quick reflexes and intuitive understanding of 3-dimensional movement allow him to pilot through gaps that shouldn't exist, threading the needle between overlapping dimensions. The revelation. Jake realizes the diplomatic ship wasn't destroyed. It's trapped in a dimensional bubble at the sector's center. The area is so distorted that it exists in multiple time streams simultaneously, making rescue impossible with conventional methods. Growing respect. Back at Nexus 7, some aliens begin to worry they misjudged Jake when his ship continues to send status reports from areas where previous rescue attempts vanished. Commander Krell starts monitoring the mission personally, beginning to doubt his initial dismissal of human capabilities. Cliffhanger. Jake approaches the sector's center, where space itself appears to be folded like origami. His instruments detect the diplomatic ship's signature from multiple directions simultaneously. He realizes that reaching the trapped vessel will require him to pilot through overlapping dimensions, something that should be impossible with his basic equipment. Asterisk. The core challenge. Jake discovers the diplomatic ship, Unity, trapped in what appears to be a dimensional nada point where multiple realities intersect. The ship exists in several time streams at once, appearing as ghostly overlapping images. Conventional rescue is impossible because any ship entering the knot gets scattered across different dimensions. Jake's analysis. While alien technology tries to calculate complex dimensional mathematics, Jake approaches the problem like a mechanic diagnosing a complex engine. He observes patterns in the dimensional fluctuations, noting that they follow a rhythm similar to a damaged engine, cycling through compression phases. The human approach. Jake realizes that the dimensional knot isn't random chaos, it's like a three-dimensional puzzle box. Using spatial reasoning skills developed from working with complex machinery, he begins to see the mechanism behind the phenomenon. Communication with the trapped. Jake manages brief contact with the diplomatic ship. Captain Torres reports that her crew of mixed alien species is alive but trapped in temporal loops. Their advanced navigation I has become completely confused by the overlapping timelines, leaving them helpless. The skeptics. Back at Nexus 7, Vel and other alien mechanics monitor Jake's transmissions with growing disbelief. They insist that no pilot can navigate dimensional intersections without quantum computers and probability calculators. Rex begins betting against Jake's success to save face. Jake's plan. Instead of fighting the dimensional distortions, Jake decides to work with them. He studies the patterns and realizes they pulse like a heartbeat, expand, contract, shift, repeat. By timing his movements to match these pulses, he can slip through the gaps between realities. The first attempt. Jake makes his initial approach, using only basic timing and his mechanic's intuition about how complex systems work. He treats the dimensional knot like a huge, invisible engine and tries to find its rhythm. His first attempt fails, but he learns crucial information about the timing patterns. Alien. Disbelief. Monitoring stations detect Jake's ship appearing and disappearing at impossible locations. The readings make no sense to alien observers, who assume their instruments are malfunctioning. Some aliens begin to wonder if humans possess abilities they don't understand. The breakthrough. Jake realizes that each dimension has a different frequency, like radio stations. By adjusting his ship's engine output to match these frequencies, he can tune into specific realities. It's crude compared to alien technology, but it works because it's simple and adaptable. Manual navigation. Jake begins manually piloting through the dimensional layers, switching between realities like changing gears in an old truck. He uses basic reference points, the angle of distant stars, the feel of gravitational pull, the sound of his engine to maintain his bearings across multiple dimensions. The rescue. Approach. Jake successfully reaches the Unity by essentially downshifting through dimensional layers. The diplomatic crew watches in amazement as his primitive cargo ship phases in and out of their reality, something their sophisticated vessel cannot do. Technical challenge. Linking the two ships across multiple dimensions requires Jake to create a stable corridor between realities. Using emergency cables and basic magnetic couplers, he builds a crude but functional interdimensional tether, essentially jerry-rigging a connection that alien engineers thought required massive installations. The evacuation. Jake begins transferring the diplomatic crew to his ship one by one, timing each transfer to match the dimensional pulses. The process is dangerous and requires split-second timing, But his mechanic's hands and intuitive understanding of mechanical timing make it possible. Growing. Tension. Not all transfers go smoothly. One diplomat nearly gets lost between dimensions when the timing is off. Jake has to make an emergency dive into a collapsing dimensional pocket to retrieve the alien, using nothing but gut instinct and a safety line. Alien observers. At Nexus 7, the monitoring team watches readings they can't explain. Jake's ship appears to be in multiple locations simultaneously, performing maneuvers that their physics say are impossible. Commander Krell begins to realize that human primitive thinking might be an advantage, not a weakness. The full load. Jake successfully evacuates all 12 diplomats from 6 different species. His cargo ship is now overloaded and handling poorly, but everyone is alive. The Unity remains trapped, but the mission's primary goal is achieved, the return journey. Now Jake must navigate back through the void sector with a ship full of injured diplomats and damaged life support systems. The added weight and the aliens. Mental distress from their ordeal make the return journey even more dangerous than the rescue. Cliffhanger. As Jake begins the journey home, his overloaded ship's systems start failing. The dimensional knot behind them begins to collapse, creating a shockwave that threatens to destroy everything within 50 light years, including Nexus 7 station. Asterisk the collapse. The dimensional knot begins imploding, creating a cascade effect that threatens to tear apart local spacetime. Jake's ship sensors, primitive as they are, detect the growing instability as vibrations through the hull, something the sophisticated alien instruments missed until too late. The time crunch. Jake has less than 2 hours to navigate out of the void sector before the collapse reaches critical mass. His overloaded ship moves slowly, and the rescued diplomats' various species have conflicting life support needs, pushing his basic systems to the breaking point. Alien panic. At Nexus 7, sophisticated sensors finally detect the dimensional collapse. The alien command staff realizes that if Jake doesn't escape in time, the shockwave will destroy not just his ship, but potentially the entire station. Thousands of lives now depend on the human they had mocked, the failing ship. Jake's cargo vessel Iron Horse wasn't designed for this kind of stress. Life support systems flicker. The engine develops a concerning vibration, and the hull shows stress fractures from the dimensional transitions. The rescued diplomats begin to panic as their different atmospheric needs create conflicts. Human ingenuity. Jake addresses the life support crisis by creating separate atmospheric zones using emergency tarps and duct tape basic human solutions. At work when sophisticated alien systems fail, he reroutes power manually, using techniques learned from maintaining old Earth machinery. The diplomat's realization. As Jake works, the rescued diplomats observe his problem-solving methods. They begin to understand that what they had dismissed as primitive is actually a different kind of intelligence, adaptive, intuitive, and incredibly practical. Navigation challenges. The dimensional collapse creates new distortions and obstacles. Areas Jake had navigated safely on the way in are now filled with spatial anomalies. His paper charts become useless as the sector's geography changes in real time. Pure instinct. With instruments unreliable and charts obsolete, Jake relies entirely on his pilot's instincts. He feels his way through space like a blind mechanic, diagnosing an engine problem, reading vibrations, listening to sounds that shouldn't exist in vacuum, trusting his gut over his instruments. The diplomatic observers. The rescued aliens watch Jake work with growing amazement. Ambassador Ty of the Corey delegation begins recording Jake's methods, realizing she's witnessing something unprecedented. These primitive techniques are achieving what their most advanced technology cannot. System failures. Major ship systems begin failing as the dimensional shockwave approaches. Jake loses navigation computers, then communications, then partial engine control. Each failure forces him to rely more on manual control and basic mechanical understanding. The alien awakening. Back at Nexus 7, Commander Krell watches long-range sensors track Jake's progress. The human is navigating through impossible conditions, using methods that alien science can't even analyze. For the first time, Krell questions his species' assumption of superiority. Creative solutions. When the ship's artificial gravity fails, threatening to injure the diplomats, Jake uses the ship's rotation and basic physics to create centrifugal gravity. When power distribution fails, he manually reroutes circuits using spare parts and wire, turning the ship's electrical system into something that works despite being completely non-standard. The final obstacle. Jake encounters a massive dimensional rift, a crack in spacetime itself that's growing as the sector collapses. The rift is too wide to go around and too dangerous to go through, but it's the only path out of the collapsing sector. The impossible decision. Jake realizes he must pilot directly through the dimensional rift, something that should instantly destroy his ship. But his mechanic's eye notices something. The rift has an irregular pulse, like a damaged valve cycling. There might be microsecond windows when it's safe to pass through. The leap of faith. Jake attempts the impossible passage, timing his approach to the rift's pulse using nothing but his internal sense of timing. The margin for error is 0 too early or too late means instant death for everyone aboard. Success. Against odds, Jake successfully pilots through the dimensional rift in a maneuver that will be talked about for generations. His ship emerges from the void sector just as the entire region collapses behind them, sealing itself off from normal space. The return. As the Iron Horse limps toward Nexus 7, Jake receives his first communication from the station in hours. Commander Krell's voice carries a tone of respect that wasn't there before. Nexus 7 to Jake Miller. Outstanding work. Pilot. Outstanding work. The revelation. The rescued diplomats and monitoring aliens realize they've witnessed something extraordinary, not just a rescue, but a demonstration of capabilities they never imagined. The human they had mocked has accomplished the impossible using methods they had dismissed as worthless. Cliffhanger. As Jake approaches Nexus 7, he discovers the station is under attack by an unknown alien force. The dimensional collapse has apparently attracted something dangerous from deep space, and now Jake must decide whether to flee to safety or use his unique skills to help defend the station that had rejected him. The new threat. Jake discovers that the dimensional collapse has torn a hole between galaxies, allowing through an ancient alien species called the Devourer's beings that feed on dimensional energy and view all other life as obstacles to be eliminated. The station's defense. Nexus 7's sophisticated defense systems prove useless against the Devourers, whose ships exist partially outside normal spacetime. The station's advanced weapons can't target enemies that phase in and out of reality, and their shields are ineffective against weapons that ignore conventional physics. Jake's decision. Despite the years of mockery and discrimination, Jake doesn't hesitate to help defend the station. His cargo ship is damaged, and his passengers are exhausted, but he recognizes that thousands of innocent lives are at stake. The impossible plan. Jake realizes that the Devourer's interdimensional abilities are similar to what he encountered in the Void Sector. Their ships follow patterns like the dimensional nut's pulses that can be predicted and exploited by someone who understands their rhythm. Rallying the defense. Jake contacts Commander Krell with a desperate plan. While the station's fighters engage the Devourers directly, Jake will use his interdimensional navigation skills to attack from unexpected angles, essentially ambushing enemies by approaching through folded space. The alien volunteers. Surprisingly, several alien pilots volunteer to follow Jake's lead, including Rex from the Starbreaker. They've watched his impossible navigation and want to learn from the human they had previously mocked. Training on the fly. Jake quickly teaches basic interdimensional navigation to volunteers, emphasizing intuition over instruments. Don't trust your computers, he tells them. Trust your gut. Feel the ship, don't just fly it. Most alien pilots struggle with this concept, having relied on technology their entire careers. The battle begins. Jake leads a small squadron in attacks that the Devourers never expect. By phasing partially out of normal space, Jake can strike at enemy weak points that conventional attacks cannot reach. His basic cargo ship, reinforced with spare parts and willpower, becomes a weapon system no engineer ever intended. Human leadership. For the first time, alien pilots take orders from a human. Jake's calm voice and clear instructions guide them through maneuvers that should be impossible. His mechanic's understanding of how things work translates perfectly to combat tactics. The turning point. Jake discovers that the Devourer's interdimensional drives have a critical flaw: they can't phase shift while charging their weapons. By timing attacks to these vulnerable moments, the defenders can actually damage the seemingly invincible enemy ships. Personal heroism. When a Devourer ship breaks through the defensive line and heads directly for the station's civilian quarters, Jake intercepts it alone. His damaged cargo ship shouldn't stand a chance, but his unconventional tactics and desperate courage allow him to disable the enemy vessel at the cost of severe damage to his own ship. The final gambit. Jake realizes the only way to stop the Neo invasion is to collapse the dimensional rift the Devourers are using. This requires flying directly into the breach and destabilizing it from inside, a suicide mission that he volunteers for without hesitation. The station's support. For the first time, every alien on the station works together to support Jake's mission. Vel, the mechanic who had mocked him most cruelly, leads an emergency repair team that patches Jake's ship with whatever materials they can find. "Come back alive, human," Vel says with genuine respect. The sacrifice averted. Jake successfully destabilizes the dimensional rift, but his ship is trapped in the collapse. Just when death seems certain, the combined efforts of the station alien technology, guided by human intuition, create a rescue corridor that pulls him to safety. Recognition. Jake awakens in the station's medical bay to find representatives from dozens of species waiting to thank him personally. Commander Krell formally apologizes for the station's treatment of humans and offers Jake the position of Chief Navigation Instructor, the first human to hold a leadership position in the galactic community. The transformation. The rescued diplomats use their influence to spread word of Jake's achievements throughout the galaxy. Universities that had rejected human applications now seek to study human problem-solving methods. The species that had mocked humanity as primitive begin to recognize the value of intuitive thinking and practical skills. Jake's choice offered. Positions throughout the galaxy, Jake chooses to remain at Nexus 7, establishing the first human-alien technical exchange program. He continues working as a mechanic, but now alien students line up to learn from the human who proved that sometimes the simplest solutions are the most effective. The new reality. The story ends with Jake training a mixed class of alien students in basic mechanical and piloting skills. The laughter that once mocked him has been replaced by respectful attention as he teaches the galaxy that intelligence comes in many forms and that sometimes being primitive is exactly what the situation requires. Final message. The galaxy learns that diversity of thought and approach is not a weakness to be mocked, but a strength to be celebrated. Jake's story becomes legend, inspiring others to value different perspectives and proving that heroism often comes from the most unexpected sources.